today, and the focus will be, or focus is rather, on Nigeria's energy sector, Nigeria's petroleum sector. And joining me now is an economic analyst who will be helping us, dissect this current development within the sector. I'm joined now by Dr. Samson Simon, who is an economic analyst. Thank you, Doctor, for joining us on Business Daily today.
Thank you for having me. Good morning, Nigerians. Good morning, America.
I don't know if you can hear me, Doctor. We are finding it a little bit hard to hear you. But can you hear me?
I can hear you clearly.
We seem to have a bit of, technical challenges. Let's go on a short break. The conversation continues after the break this day. And you are still watching Business Daily on Trust TV. I have my guest here with me. He is Dr. Samson Simon. He is an economic analyst. Thank you, Doctor, for joining us on the program today.
Thank you for having me.
It's always, a pleasure having you on the program. But we are, like I told you earlier, talking to issues that have developed across Nigeria's petroleum sector. And one of those is, the major news that is the commencement of operations in Dangote Refinery. And we have seen, other development. We have also seen, the rise in the price of PMS, as well as many other developments. But let us hear from you now. Looking at the current petroleum sector and all of these developments that have played out so far, and also with the NNPC being set to, become the exclusive buyer from Dangote Refinery, what are your thoughts on all of this put together?
Well, it's a good thing. As a Nigerian, as an African, we're all happy that we're making progress. Nigeria has been struggling to refine its own fuel, while it has been a major crude oil producer on the global stage. It has failed, particularly in the last 28 years, to refine domestically. And that has limited the capacity of the Nigerian state to provide or to supply enough refined fuel for the Nigerian consumer. So with the coming of Dangote on stream now, I think that's a major thing. That's a watershed moment for Nigeria, because we can produce domestically and even better quality refined fuel than what we used to purchase across borders. And then this is also an opportunity for us to cut costs and possibly even bring down the pump price of fuel. That is not guaranteed, by the way, but if you cut some of the landing costs, because we are no longer importing, the expectation is that you cut the cost of shipping to ports and other things. That should help in bringing down the prices of refined fuel. And then what is likely going to be guaranteed to be achieved is that we have constant supply of fuel. We'll no longer see long queues at our filling stations now, with Dangote coming on stream. And mind you, we had a similar situation with cement. We used to be a net importer. With Dangote and Bua and others coming, we are now a net exporter. I know that has not really helped with the price much, but with the supply, we are largely self-sufficient now. So the same thing with refined fuel. Bua is also warming up, and other refineries are also there. So I think that's a big achievement for the Nigerian state. And I give kudos to Dangote, to the president too, and to every Nigerian that is witnessing this particular momentous event.
I would like you to speak to, the NNPC's exclusive purchase agreement. This has been met with diverse opinions from Nigerians, from oil marketers as well. But let us hear your thoughts on this regarding, the exclusive agreement by the NNPC to purchase directly from Dangote refineries. Is this a welcome development, or let's hear from you? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I don't think it's really the best thing for the NNPC to be the sole buyer of refined fuel from the Dangote Refinery. I feel an open market, a more competitive market would have been better for the Nigerian consumer. But the main problem is that we're still paying for subsidy. The Nigerian state is still paying for subsidy, though we're still living in denial. For almost 10 years now, we have been denying the fact that we're paying for subsidy. Under Buhari, it was called under recovery. Now they are calling it FX differential or whatever differences that they want to call. But the bottom line is that we're paying for subsidy. So I think that should be the reason for why the NNPC is the sole purchaser of refined fuel from the Dangote Refinery. But I feel other marketers, independent marketers, should be allowed to. And provision can be made for whatever subsidy. It can be paid to Dangote directly, or it can be paid to, because of the corruption in the marketing, I feel it's going to be a little bit difficult for the Nigerian state to accept to pay those marketers. Maybe Dangote can be paid directly, and then you can keep tabs of things. And I like what Dangote said, because at the moment, even the NNPC has considered the fact that we don't actually know the exact number of liters of fuel that is being consumed. So Dangote has assured us that this is trackable, and you help us to track, and we know the exact quantity of fuel that is being consumed within Nigeria, and even perchance, because evidence is overwhelming, that we are subsidizing not only Nigerians, but also the entire West African sub-region. So we have all the data, and data will guide you on the right actions to take.
Let us speak to, the current debt that the NNPC owes to, international oil traders, currently standing at about, $6 billion. Do you foresee this development impacting in the current financial challenges of the NNPC, and the possibility of the NNPC being able to get out of, that debt?
Well, the debts have already been accumulated, so the NNPC has to find a way to pay back those people. But the NNPC can heave a sigh of relief now that Dangote is on board. How can they do that? Because we are a domestic producer of refined fuel now, so we don't have to depend solely on those foreign or international marketers now. We can actually produce our own fuel domestically. So this thing is largely not likely going to occur again in future, since I know the Dangote is promising 25 to 30 million, which is below what some sources claim, that we're consuming 60-something million liters a day. So it may not be meet the supply from Dangote might not be enough to keep up with the domestic consumption. But the problem is that we don't even know the exact figure. Some sources have quoted 64, others 68, but we don't really know. And some people are saying that as much as a quarter of that to 30% of that goes into other West African countries. So with Dangote, I think that will help. And the NNPC does not have to depend on international marketers again like they used to. So that would give them some breathing space, and they have some room to maneuver. So, but these debts have been accumulated, and they have to be paid back.
And just when Nigerians were about celebrating, talking about finally refining our oil here in Nigeria, we again were met with, a recent hike in PMS price across the nation, and that has, caused increase in fuel queues across, filling stations at the Federal Capital Territory, and generally speaking. But let us hear from you now, because I believe it's important that we highlight this specific development and how it impacts on the macroeconomic stability of the nation. But let's hear from you. How do you foresee this hike, impacting on the current living conditions of most Nigerians? Before now, Nigerians had, been grappling with inflationary pressures, and now this. But let's hear, what are your thoughts, and what do you expect moving forward?
It's beyond sad that the palm price of fuel is being hiked at this particular time. Nigerians are experiencing what the Financial Times tagged as the worst cost of living crisis in a generation. And the increase in this palm price will only make an already bad situation far worse. At present in the country, people are struggling. Even middle income people, even the wealthy are struggling. So you can only imagine what the poor are struggling. And we have a sizable number of poor people. So it's really bad news for the Nigerian of every wealth strength. It is really bad news, but I feel like the authorities are really struggling to pay up subsidies that they have accumulated. So this is a way of reducing the amount of money they would have to pay in subsidy in the nearest future. Because if you if you hike the price, so the difference that you had to cover before, you don't have to cover that. You have reduced it. We're talking about landing costs in the region of 1,001, 1,002. So if you were selling fuel at 600, that means you're paying like half of that in subsidy. But now that you have hiked the price to almost 900 naira, some people are even selling beyond 1,000 naira, you have drastically reduced the amount of subsidy that you have to pay. The truth is, this subsidy, while we theoretically we believe the removal of subsidy is good, as it frees up resources for the authorities to tackle the problems of healthcare, of education, of infrastructure, and other things. The truth is that this policy was not properly thought out. And mind you, people don't demand for subsidy for the sake of subsidy. Demand for subsidy is a derived demand. Why do you demand for subsidy? So that you have lower pump price of refined fuel. And there are other ways that you can bring down the pump price of refined fuel without necessarily paying through your nose for subsidy. And one of these ways is by ensuring domestic refining and domestic supply of crude oil. And this thing should have been done if these things were done first before the subsidy was removed. I think that problem, this hiking, wouldn't have become a problem, and Nigerians would not have been impoverished the way they have been impoverished over the last 1 year.
And at this point, I don't envy business owners. You know, the cost of doing business currently skyrocketing. You are, you know, an entrepreneur. I would like to hear from you now. What do you foresee, you know, or how do you expect for this to impact on the business environment, especially the backbone of the Nigerian economy, speaking of the MSMEs? I wonder how, you know, MSMEs will be grappling at this point, you know, with the current situation. But as someone who runs the business here in Nigeria, how are you coping?
It's not really easy, and expect Nasima, LCCI, NECA, and MAN to start complaining. It's not really easy. You know, even before now, they have been bitterly complaining that the high prices of refined fuel have actually affected them, and now, as bad as the situation was before now, is even getting worse with this increase. So, and that means people will struggle. People have been struggling, but it's going to get worse to even do business. Our power supply is relatively abysmal. So people opt for other sources, such as using generating set, which they power with refined fuel. So with the higher prices now, people will even struggle the more, and businesses might even be shut down, and a lot of people will be laid off because of this. It's not really easy, and you expect them to do a lot of pushback against the government for hiking price. Even NLC is complaining bitterly because the purchasing power of employees, of the consumer, is being chipped away at slowly but surely. So it's a big problem, and our cost of living is going to be worse our standard of living will go down. So it's not really a good situation, and it reflects badly on the leadership of this country. If instead of making things better for Nigerians, things are actually getting worse.
Unfortunately, so there. But I have been speaking with Dr. Samson Simon, who is an economic analyst, and he has spoken to, the current price, or hike rather, in the pump price, and how Nigerians are grappling, with that. He also did speak to recent developments such as, the commencement of operations by Dangote Refinery. Thank you, Doctor, for all the insights you've shared with us on today's edition of the program.
Thank you for having me.
Well, that's all we will be taking on Business Daily today, but keep the conversation going on social media. Let us hear your thoughts across all the social media platforms, on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube, as well as X, formerly Twitter. Let us hear from you. What are your thoughts on all of this, and how are you grappling with the current fuel scarcity across the nation? My name is Chiamaka Enendu. Thank you for watching, and bye for now.